Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another ELESTRALS deck profile for you. So this one is actually going to be more similar to the way I do my Master Duel deck profiles, by the way. So after we discuss the list here for a little bit, we are actually going to see some gameplay that I'm going to narrate over, which is pretty cool. So hopefully going to be doing a lot more of that in the near future here as well. So this list that we're going to cover today is for WaspIvy. So this is a pretty cool card that I thought was a fun build around. Decided to try it out, and I was pretty impressed by it in my testing. This deck ended up working a lot better than I thought it was going to, and you'll see evidence of that here in this gameplay. So WaspIvy is a 2 Earth Spirit Elestral with 8 attack and 1 defense. It says when this WaspIvy is destroyed in battle, an opponent must expend 3 spirits. So from their spirit deck to the underworld, right? This WaspIvy is unaffected by opponent's counter runes if it is ascended from Cyanectar. So we're going to start off with 2 copies of that, and you might be wondering, well, if it's the main card of our deck, why we're only playing 2 copies? We shall look no further than Cyanectar to find that out. We're playing 3 copies of that. Cyanectar says, when a player casts Poison Tipped Arrow, Poison Nectar, or Poison Tunic, you can special summon the Cyanectar to WaspIvy from your hand or deck. So WaspIvy is summonable from the deck off Nectar, so we don't need 3 copies because it is fairly easy to access. So the nice thing too is that it works when either player casts these cards, and Poison Tipped Arrow is an extremely popular card. Just about every single deck out there is playing 3 of it. So if an opponent casts Poison Tipped Arrow while the Cyanectar is up, including if they try to chain it, I believe, also onto the Cyanectar, you can just boom special send a WaspIvy right there. So that's pretty nice. Speaking of Poison Tipped Arrow, we are, of course, playing 3 copies ourselves. Like I mentioned before, Poison Tipped Arrow, if you've played pretty much any amount of Lestrals, you've probably seen this card. It's a 3 of in, like, pretty much literally every single deck. So that is, of course, also one of the cards that lets Cyanectar go into WaspIvy. So, like I said, already a good staple and part of our combo. We're, of course, playing 3 copies. We are also playing 3 copies of the Poison Tunic. This one is it's an Omni rune. It's 2 spirits of any kind for an artifact that says the Empowered Elestral gets -2 attack. When the Empowered Elestral is destroyed in battle, its controller must expend 2 spirits. So continuing with that Earth theme, or that Burn theme rather, that WaspIvy's got, you'll obviously be willing to put this on your opponent's suits to weaken them, and of course to evolve, so to speak, the Cyanectar. You could also just put this on Cyanectar and then just ascend it to the WaspIvy, because artifacts fall off when you ascend. They don't go to the next Elestral. So that is another way that you can do that if your opponent doesn't have anything on the field and you want to ascend like that. So yeah, we're not playing the 3rd card, Poison Nectar, mentioned on Cyanectar. Poison Nectar is an Omni rune that negates effects that draw cards, and I think even in the side deck, even for a deck like this, that's going to be just a little bit too narrow. Doesn't really have much good use there. So that's kind of like the main sort of WaspIvy package there, right? We got the Ivies to go into, the Nectars, and then the Arrows and Tunics that go with the Cyanectar. So in order to help increase the consistency and also power this combo, we have a few cards to help us out here. 3 copies of Argo. This is another Omni rune. This one's a counter that says this Argo can only be cast after an Elestral declares an attack. Cast an artifact rune from your hand or deck. So use case is pretty self-explanatory. If you don't open the Poison Tunic, but you do the Argo, you can use this during your opponent's turn when they declare an attack, or your turn when you declare an attack. Equip the Tunic, and then if you do that, of course, while you control the Cyanectar, boom, you got yourself a WaspIvy. So it's also nice that you can use the Argo plus Tunic as a little bit of like a Sakuretsu armor, right? Because again, the Tunic will give your opponent's Celestial -2 attack, so that might make an unfavorable trade where they end up crashing their dude into yours, right? And remember that they are going to take the 2, so it's okay that you have to pay 2 for the Tunic as well as the Argo. And I figured, if we're playing artifacts already, we might as well play one that's actually very, very good when paired in particular with the WaspIvy. That's going to be the Solar artifact, Golden Fleece. So this is a 2 Solar Spirit artifact that says the Empowered Elestral gets +2 defense. If the Empowered Elestral would be destroyed in battle or by an opponent's card effect, you may destroy this Golden Fleece instead. So I want to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the weaknesses of WaspIvy and how the Golden Fleece here helps circumvent that. You see, the WaspIvy, while immune to counter runes, can still be destroyed by invoke runes. Cryoblast is pretty popular and is able to destroy this because it only has 1 defense. And there's also Earthquake and Resting on your Laurels. However, Earthquake and Resting are limited, and Cryoblast is seeing a lot less play, so that's pretty good for this deck. Unfortunately, the Daybreak meta did also bring, Mudlet and Eddy, which are two 1-Spirit Elestrals that are played a lot in this meta, both capable of changing the position of an Elestral, so they can change the WaspIvy defense mode and with its 1 defense battle over it. Now, they'll take the 3 burn, but ideally we want our WaspIvy to really get in there and get some attacks before it gets destroyed and tries to burn, the opponent, right? And that's where the Golden Fleece comes in. Golden Fleece plus WaspIvy, if you have the Fleece equipped to the Ivy, this is an indestructible Elestral, right? If they try to destroy it by battle after changing its position, or by an Invoke rune, you'll simply destroy the Golden Fleece instead. And this is immune to counter runes, so no Dense Fog, no Tsunami, no Shield of Achilles, nothing like that will be able to stop it. So that's basically the main kind of premise of this deck, is to get a WaspIvy and equip it with the Golden Fleece. And that's actually a lot more consistent than it might look, mostly thanks to the Argo. I touched on the Argo using the Poison Tunic to help destroy an Elestral. Well, you can also use Argo to throw a Golden Fleece on your WaspIvy, or another Elestral that you want to protect from being destroyed. So you'll see in the gameplay too how potent this combo can be. And since I figured we're already playing 5 artifacts, 3 Argo, and Solar Spirits, let's play a couple of Heliolith as well. This was my most adventurous pick for the deck. Heliolith being a 2 Solar Spirit. It's one of the liths, so it can be normal cast with just 2 spirits if a condition is met, like all of them. For Heliolith, is if an artifact is enchanted, this Heliolith can be normal cast with 2 Solar Spirits if an artifact is enchanted. When you cast this Heliolith, you can return an Elestral on the field to its owner's hand. It's a 5/5. By the way, the wording on that, this bounce that returns an Elestral to an opponent's hand, that does not target. That actually is going to be relevant in one of the games that we're going to see here coming up. So, a little bit of an adventurous pick. I was just going to play Vertilith, the Earthlith, but I was like, like I said before, we have the Solar Spirits, we have the artifacts, let's try out Heliolith. And it actually tested very, very well for me. This card was never dead in the games I tested it with. So, I was quite pleased with that. I'm going to keep testing it moving forward. So to further help the consistency of our game plan, we're also on 3 copies of Rummagem. Rummagem being an a 1 Earth Spirit 2/3 that says when you normal cast Rummagem, you can search your deck for an Elestral with enchantment cost Earth and add it to your hand. That's an Earth 1 Spirit, by the way. It's not any Earth Elestral, like 2 spirits or more, but of course we're just going to be grabbing Cyanectar mostly with the Rummagem there. And I know I said every Elestral deck doesn't play 3, even though pretty much every Elestral deck I've shown here does, but we are playing 3. Nectar of the God, just straight up Pot of Greed, draw 2 cards to draw into all of our stuff more consistently. So that's all what I would call the support for the WaspIvy package, right? For the rest of the deck, it's mostly just staples and or power cards that are good for just helping us, generically or to help us make plays outside of the combo. We're playing 3 Mudlet and 3 Viscerus for additional Earth cards. Mudlet being one of those aforementioned WaspIvy outs I was talking about before. It's a pretty good card, so we're naturally going to be playing it ourselves at 3. And then Viscerus is really good, especially if you're not able to get your WaspIvy combo online. This is a 1 card, this basically threatens a lot by itself. It's also good for baiting out a lot of stuff that might threaten out your WaspIvy or Cyanectar. You can just maybe bait it with the Viscerus there. So more is just generally good Earth cards to help us out. And then for staples, we're playing 3 Astrabbit, because it's an Elestrals deck, but moreover, it's a combo deck, so we definitely want to be playing the bunnies. Earthquake, good card anyway, and we're already playing Earth, so why not? 3 Ambro, like Bunny, it's an Elestral deck, and 3 Gorgon's Gaze, like Ambro and Bunny, it's an Elestrals deck, so you're playing 3 of these. So that is going to do it for the main deck. For the Spirit deck, it's pretty simple, actually. We have 3 Zaptor for the 3 Astrabbit. You can definitely get away with 2. By the way, you don't need the 3rd one, but re-enchanting Rabbit does happen occasionally. And we have room for the 3rd Zaptor, so why not? We're playing 4 Luminape. That might seem low, but we're only playing 4 solar cards. Now, granted, they do all cost 2, but you're really not going to need more than 4 Luminape in a game generally. Usually the first one is for the first Golden Fleece, and the second one is either for a second Golden Fleece or a Heliolith, if you even need the second round of Luminapes. So, also, if it's later in the game and you haven't used the Luminapes, you can definitely, of course, depending on the situation, think about using them for the Omni Runes as well. So that's 7 spirits right there, and the remaining 13, as you can see, are all just going to be Earth. So I don't have a side deck built for this yet. I definitely want more experience playing best of 3s with siding and Elestrals. One funny thing about this deck, though, that I noticed, I didn't even really plan this, but if you take the cards that are strictly WaspIvy and not good, like in a other decks, right? So here that'd be 2 Heliolith, 2 Golden Fleece, 3 Argo, 3 Poison Tunic, Poison Tipped Arrows, we definitely play anyway, 3 Cyanectar, and 2 WaspIvy. That's actually 15 cards. So what you could do is, if you were to build a side deck for this, you could, in theory, just side these 15 cards out, and then just like side into basically just regular Earth Nexus, right? You'd be playing 3 of each, like, Nectar and Rummagem, which Earth Nexus typically doesn't, but that's not horrible either. But yeah, you could just slot in like Equilynxes, Elichiks, Demeters, because your opponent will often side super specifically to counter your WaspIvy strategy. So basically you can just go into regular Earth Nexus and then you'll have made your opponent miss side, which is kind of funny. So, and then especially if you go to game 3, they'll be wondering if they even need to keep in the anti-WaspIvy stuff or not. And you can even think about going back into WaspIvy, depending on the deck and the situation, of course. So that's it for like this kind of deck profile breakdown. Like I said, we do have some gameplay, so let's go ahead and check that out here. Okay, so going into our WaspIvy games here. My first game against Sand Sally, friend of the channel. She has mulliganed, that's why there's 2 water spirits in her discard pile there. I won the coin flip, so I'm going to go for the die roll rather, so I'm going to go first here. Starting off with the Rummagem in defense mode. Going to use that to search up an Earth Spirit. So we're going to grab ourselves, of course, the Cyanectar. Gonna get our WaspIvy plays started there. So Sally is going to be on Chronodile for these games here. Pretty good deck to test against. Chronodile is a good litmus test for can your deck out this card and or if not stop the setup. So gonna be adding that Cyanectar to our hand. I'm gonna then throw down a face down and just pass it on over to Sally after that. So Sally's gonna be taking her turn here. And I believe, if I recall correctly, starts off with a Nectar of the Gods. She's going into her spirit pile, pulling out 2 water, and yep, there is the Nog. So she's got a total of 4 expended, because remember, she did mulligan there. And if I recall correctly, after a bit of deliberation, yep, she's going to end up casting a second Nog with 2 more water spirits. So going in, I know it's like, I know, I said not every Elestral deck just plays the Pot of Greeds, but hers actually really does care about finding the Chronodile as sort of a combo piece as well. So definitely makes sense why she is also on the Nogs too. Alright, Sally going for her spirit deck. Looks like she's going to use a water spirit to cast Dratagwa. That is a 1/4, which will let her return 2 water spirits from the underworld to her deck. Much like our Catarant, or not our Catarant. That's for the next video. That's for the, I'm getting my videos mixed up here because I'm recording them on the same day, but alright, that 1/4 got a nice bit of a defensive body there. Sally's going to put a card face down, pass it over to us. We're going to draw for a turn here. Alright. At this point, I believe we are ready to set up the WaspIvy, because we did search that Cyanectar. So, yep, I'm going to throw down the Cyanectar here, giving it an Earth Spirit. And Sally probably knows what this means by this point. Indeed, we are also holding the Poison Tunic, so I'm going to equip the Dratagwa with that, using 2 more Earth Spirits, and that is going to allow our Cyanectar to Special Ascend. So, For these games here, I totally didn't even realize this until after the fact, but I accidentally was putting the spirit under Cyanectar in the underworld. A special ascend does let you keep the spirit, so I'm actually expending one more earth spirit that I need to for these games here. So that's my mistake, but like I said, I did catch that for myself after the games here, so... Got that WaspIvy on the board. Ascended for the Cyanectar, so it's immune to counter runes. And we also happen to be holding the Golden Fleece here, meaning we can set up the full towers, that full WaspIvy with protection. Although, fun fact I'll let you in on, if I recall correctly, one of those face down cards is an Argo, so even if we didn't have the Golden Fleece in hand, we would still be able to set that up eventually. So... WaspIvy, I'm going to use that to battle over the Dratagua after turning the Rummagem to attack, and I can battle in with Rummagem, so Sally's going to have to pay out 2 for the Tunic, and then another 1 for the Rummagem, for a total of 3 spirits lost here. Alright, passing back over to her. We only have 1 card left in our hand, but we are fully set up here, so definitely not sweating about that. Yeah, and I mean, even though Sally is playing a deck that is very much on 3 Eddy, I'm assuming she's on 3 Eddy, since she's a very water-based deck. You know, despite that, we are still feeling very confident with the WaspIvy, thanks to the protection of the Golden Fleece here. I think she's asking at this point exactly what Golden Fleece does, and I'm explaining that, you know, it not only gives that +2 defense, but also can sub destruction for... the WaspIvy. So here she's going to throw down Jolton, trying to find the Atlantis here, and I am actually going to Gorgon's Gaze it. Might seem a little bit strange, but there's a couple of reasons I decided to Gorgon's Gaze here. One is that I didn't want her to get the Atlantis for a Nexus Bank. That was the main reason, but this will also let me keep my Rummagem around to get some more extra damage in as well, which will definitely be very nice here. So gonna use an Ambrosia, spending an Earth Spirit to put back, I believe, just ended up being, yeah, gonna end up being 3 Earth here. Whoop, little bit of a camera freeze on my end for a second there, before panning back over, or, you know what I mean, kicking back up. So, as you can see, the last card in my hand is a Viscera, so I'm gonna end up throwing it down here. And, yeah, the Vis could just battle over here. Normally, I would battle over Jolton with Vis to summon another one from deck, but as you can see, Sally's got the poison-tipped arrow, so that will reduce my Viscera's attack by 2, so I can't battle over with Jolton, meaning no more Vis for my deck. A little bit sad, but it really just means that I'm not winning more here, because as you can see, I already do have the WaspIvy up here. So after a bit of deliberation, I decided I'm just going to end up moving to battle here, swinging the WaspIvy over the Jolton, and then hitting in with the Rummagem and the Vis for a total of 3 more spirits worth of damage. And I believe Sally is also going to pay out the PTA during the end phase here, meaning she'll end up expending a total of 4 spirits, and then I will lose my Viscerus. But like I said, totally fine losing the Vis here, because still have the WaspIvy. And yeah, like I touched upon earlier, if I had a Cyanectar up, when she casts Poison-Tipped Arrow, Cyanectar says a player, so that does let you ascend into the WaspIvy that way. Yeah, no cards in hand here, but again, I already have pretty much everything established that I need to. Sally's getting pretty low on spirits, so I think she's at 4 right now remaining, or 3 now. She's going for the Plucky here. Plucky's going to let her grab a Divine Rune from deck. And that is, of course, going to be Poseidon, because she is on the Chronodile there. Yep, there's Poseidon. Yeah, so the Plucky has 4 defense, meaning the Rummagem can't run it over, but it's really not that big of a deal. We can just run it over with WaspIvy and then deal some damage. I mean, yeah, we're at a point where we're very much closing out the game here. Sally's got a couple of back rows there, but yeah, I mean, not really that scared of them. Like, even if one of them is able to out the Rummagem, we still do have the WaspIvy there, of course. So, I get very lucky here to close out the game quickly and top deck another Elestral. This one's going to be Mudlet. So we get to use the Mudlet here, attempting to use that to turn the Plucky to attack mode. Sally is debating on if she's want to use one of her back rows. Nope. We're just going to turn the Mudlet to attack mode, and then enter battle. I'm going to have Rummagem swing over the Plucky. 2 over 1 is successful. And then I can swing in with Mudlet and WaspIvy. And I think this actually, I think she's at 4, actually, spirits. And then this will put her down to 1. Or no, she might be at 5 and going down. Yeah, she's at 5 and going down to 2. Because I'm remembering how her last turn is going to play out here. Spoiler alert. So here, after, you know, the whole game of not seeing it, Sally does end up finally finding the Eddie. Too little, too late. Even if Eddie, you know, was able... I mean, Eddie is going to successfully resolve here to turn the WaspIvy into defense mode. And here's the thing, right? Like, if Eddie battled into the WaspIvy, I could just let the battle go through, and WaspIvy's effect would force Sally to expend 3. But I also have the Argo here, and I think what happened, if I remember right, is I didn't realize she only had 1 spirit left, so I end up accidentally, like, just styling on her here, right? Basically, I'm going to Argo in response to her attack of Eddie over WaspIvy, throwing a new Golden Fleece on the WaspIvy, as I'm using the old one to stop the WaspIvy from being destroyed. But again, at this point, you know, Sally's pointing out, like, I only have 1 spirit left, and I was like, oh yeah, I could just let that battle go through. And that's why I think I straight up told her, like, oops, I guess I'm just going to end up styling on you instead. So yeah, even if you have Argo plus Golden Fleece, it's still not even bad, because like you just saw there, you can just swap out basically an old Golden Fleece for a new one and keep that protection on your WaspIvy. So yeah, battling WaspIvy over Eddie and then swinging in with the Rummagem is going to end up doing it for this game here. And that is going to be the first one. I did pre-edit this footage, so we should, yep, swap over to the next game here. Going into our second one, and I believe Sally is going to end up taking the first turn here. Yep. All right, so she's going to set and then begin by using a Luminape to go for a Plucky. Plucky's effect will, of course, be grabbing that Poseidon there. So that's like a very basic strategy for a Chronodile deck, is to use the Plucky to grab Poseidon, because Poseidon can Nexus a water onto an Elestral. So the idea is that turn 1, you Plucky for Poseidon. Turn 2, you Poseidon, Nexus a water onto Plucky, and then enchant another water onto Plucky to ascend into the Chronodile. Alright. And yep, she's already got that back row down to kind of help protect the Plucky there. So after a bit of deliberation, looks like she is going to end up passing over to me, maybe here in a moment. Yeah, as one of the reasons I post-commentated this is because there was kind of a bit of a bit of yappage. Of course, just, you know, friendly banter, but alright, so I draw for a turn here. Not that I mind the yappage, by the way. It was yappage on both parts. I definitely yapped Sue about non-game related stuff. Wasn't sure how much of that she wanted in the video. That's another reason I decided to post-commentate that. But anyway, I once again opened with Rummagem, so I'm once again going to Rummagem for the Cyan Nectar. Yeah, I mean, the consistency boosting, as you can see, is very much coming up here. Very, very glad to have these Rummagems to search the Cyan Nectars. Because even if you're not able to, like, going second, like, ideally you would just open Cyan Nectar plus Poison Tunic to be able to start WaspIvying right away. But here, you know, ELESTRALS is a slow enough game that I definitely don't care about having to spend a turn to develop. So we will end up setting a card and then passing over to Sally here. Very, very much a mirror of our turn 1 last game as well. This game is, spoiler alert again, this game is actually going to go pretty similarly to the last game there. So Sally's going to enchant the Poseidon with, I think that was 2 extra water for, no, 4 extra water for a, 3 extra water for a total of 4. So here she's going to try to use the Poseidon to Nexus onto the Plucky. I chained the Gorgon's Gaze to the Poseidon activation. I don't know if that's exactly how that works, because Gorgon's does stop you from being able to Nexus, but I don't know if you've already declared the activation of Poseidon, if that works. But we determined that even if it didn't work that way, I could just use Gorgon's response to the activation of Poseidon, like from hand, and effectively achieve the same thing. So ultimately, you know, regardless of when it comes down, it wouldn't really affect it too much either way here. So rather than try to Nexus and then go into a Chronodile, because she can't Nexus onto the Plucky, Sally is going to use the Jolton here. Jolton to grab the Atlantis. So one of the unique things about Sally's Chronodile build that I actually like a fair bit, she's on Atlantis as well as a couple of other cards that not every Chronodile build is on, but the Atlantis was actually pretty good in some of our testing games, especially against one of my other decks that you'll see here at some point. So, all right. Alright, Sally's going to battle the Jolton over the Rumagem, keeping that Plucky in defense mode very smart, as she's going to need to enchant onto it in order to be able to ascend into the Chronodile. So, I already drew for a turn here, and if I recall correctly, I do just have the Poison Tunic in hand here, so I think I can actually see a glimpse of that Guardian of the Fleece as well. So, in very much a mirror of the last game here, I'm going to cast the Cyanectar, and then I'm going to follow it up immediately with the Poison Tunic. You know, like I said, I did think about this during the deck building phase. I thought about only playing 2 Poison Tunic, but I am actually very glad that I played 3. Just being able to so consistently see it helps going into the WaspIvy by quite a bit. Once again, me putting the Earth Spirit under Cyanectar into the yard. You're not supposed to do that. It is supposed to be under the WaspIvy, but oops. Oh well. Not a huge deal. The Tunic is on the Jolton, by the way, so that's a 2-2 right now. Although, I mean, I should have put it on Jolton, but here I end up battling it over the Jolton, and I probably should have just battled over the Plucky, since that has a Solar and the Jolton has a Thunder. If Sally's not going to be able to enchant into Chronodile, you know, off the Jolton. So I definitely should have hit over Plucky here, but, yeah, so before we battle, do got to equip that Guardian Fleece first. Like I said, I kind of just had everything here, so, alright. Yeah, I think from this point, I'm just going to end up moving to battle, unless I have another back row I want to set there. Let's see, yeah, I mean, like I said, I do end up hitting over the Jolton here. I think I'm talking about how I got the setup yet again here. How I high rolled it again. Yeah, I did battle over Jolton here for 3 spirits of damage. It is nice to get in 3 damage, but like I said, I really should have hit over that Plucky to make sure that she couldn't go into the Chronodile. That would have been smarter. But yeah, no back rows to stop the Nexus this time. No Gorgon's Gazes, so the Poseidon is going to enchant over to the Plucky, and then Sally's going to go into her Spirit deck to find another water, and ascend the Plucky into that Chronodile. So, there are 6 enchanting spirits on the field. I believe there's 3 under Poseidon, 3 under the dial, meaning it cannot be targeted, which, like I said, you know, there are some decks that really have a bit of a hard time getting over that defense mode untargetable Chronodile, but here we actually do have a couple of outs. We could muddle it to switch it in attack mode, and then crash the WaspIvy into it and have the Guardian Fleece be destroyed instead, but we are actually able to do a little bit better for ourselves here. So, if I recall correctly, at this point, I'm like, you know, looking at the cards in my hand, and I'm really reading this next card here to make sure I'm reading it correctly. And yep, I'm going for the spirits, and I'm like, I remember at this point I was like, does this really work this way? Oh, I'm going to Nog first, that's right. So, first I'm going to Nog using a Thunder and an Earth. Going to draw a couple of cards off of that. And, I remember reading this over, like, multiple times, being like, that really is how this, yep. I went for the spirits, and I was like, one last time, I was like, that's really how this works. I'm like, yep, here's the Heliolith, and like I touched upon before, and this is where it's relevant, Heliolith's bounce does not target, meaning I can actually just use the Heliolith on the Chronodile here. Here I'm reading to Sally, I'm like, yeah, it says return, it just says return, you can return an Elestral on the field to the hand, no targeting involved, so that does mean the Chronodile is going to end up going back here, even though there are 6 water/solar spirits, so that's a pretty huge blow for Sally, because not only does she lose the 3 under the dial, but now I get to swing in for 4 here with the Ivy and the Heliolith, so massive, absolutely massive swing there. And I still have 4 cards in hand on top of that, thanks to that Nog. It's it's pretty nice. So, I mean, I do commit a lot of spirits to the board with this. I have 6 of my 20 spirits are on my field right now, but, you know, like I said, this is exactly what the deck wants to be doing, so... and as you can see, like I touched upon before, we have a lot of artifacts and the Argos. It's really not hard for this Heliolith to be live. Yeah, it's cool. I like it a lot. So Sally's going to go for a Misenchanted Astrabbit here, putting a water under it. Then she's going to Nexus from Poseidon onto it, throwing down the Atlantis. That is going to make the Astrabbit a lot bigger, but unfortunately it only puts it up to 7 defense, and that is not going to be enough to be able to defend against the WaspIvy here. She's going for an Ambro as well. That's just casting another... I was like, is this a Tadflow? I don't remember that. No, it's going to be... she's going for the Ambro here. Although, to be fair, I'm pretty sure I do have a Mudlet in my hand, so even if the Astrabbit had a 3rd water on it and it was a 5/8, I could still just use the Mudlet to switch it into attack mode, so... Which I think I might even end up casting it here anyway, if I recall correctly. I guess we're going to find out here in a moment. Alright, she's got the one face down as well. Yeah, I do end up casting Mudlet here anyway. So yeah, even if that Astrabbit had been a 5/8, I still could have run over it in this situation with WaspIvy. Yeah, Mudlet is such a great card. I mean, if you're playing just about any amount of Earth, it's like Eddy. With Eddy, if you're already playing a good amount of Water, then you should be playing Eddy, and then Mudlet's the same with Earth. So, because the Astrabbit has 4 attack, I tried to swing over it with Heliolith. Sally's going to use a Water from Poseidon to bounce it with a Shield of Achilles, paying out 2 more from her Spirit deck. I am out of Solar, so I can't recast that Heliolith, but I'm also really not that worried about it in this game state. We're pretty far ahead. Gonna run over the Astrabbit with the WaspIvy. It had 2 spirits, so they don't take damage from that. But Sally will take 1 from the Mudlet, and then we'll pass back over to her. She's only got a handful of spirits left in the Spirit deck there, but still 1 under Atlantis as well as 1 under the Poseidon there, so... I think that's a total of 5. I think I see 3 in her Spirit deck, but... Alright, let's see if she's able to do anything here in response. I mean, here, again, even if she had the Eddy, you know, we have the Golden Fleece, which would stop the WaspIvy from getting destroyed in battle. And this is actually another situation where even if the Golden Fleece wasn't here, and even if Eddy ran over the WaspIvy, that burn for 3 would be devastating, if not game-ending for her at this point. So, that's the other nice thing about WaspIvy, again, is that, like, you naturally... I mean, to be fair, Sally's deck naturally kind of puts a lot of spirits on board between the Poseidon and, you know, the Chronodile and stuff, but... yeah, I think at this point she's going to end up scooping it up and just give it over to me. So... yeah, that's going to end up doing it for these games. Thanks for watching them. And yeah, that's going to, like I said, wrap it up. So this is XLEX. I am signing out and hoping that you have a fantastic day.